I am so excited to have Alissa Locke and Jane Helm here with me today. Alissa and Jane, they do some pretty important work, and it has to do with really helping people learn how to manage their finances, little financial literacy. I met both of these ladies on a social media audio app called Clubhouse, and we kind of bonded because I work a little bit in that space as well as a money mentor or money coach. And so we've really had some really educational and intriguing conversations. And so I thought I would bring it here to Perspectives today. And so Alissa and Jane, welcome, welcome, welcome. Do you want to tell anybody? Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do? And Alissa, why don't you start?
Sure. Well, I'm so happy to be here. And, first of all, I have to say, I love that you introduced this by saying that we do important work, because in my heart, I really feel like we do important work. We are financial coaches. Jane is actually the founder of Money Mentor Group. 7 years ago, I joined her as a financial coach back in January of 2020. And as you said, we are financial coaches. We work mostly with small business owners and entrepreneurs, helping them to really understand their finances, which enables them to amplify their profits, create more cash flow, and really become unshakable in their confidence when it comes to their finances, both their business finances and their personal finances. So, Jane, you want to go ahead and build on that?
So, Alissa has pretty much been all inclusive of what we do. A lot of our work is on the behavior side and the mindset side. I always say there's so many of us in the world that could put together a budget or put together a plan for you. But if I just handed off that plan to you, the chances of you following through and really doing that shift diminish without the accountability and without someone holding your hand through some of the difficult emotions that go with money. So I came into financial coaching because of my own struggles with money. I think a lot of us in this space of being a coach had to overcome a lot, right? And I always say that transform people. And that is what I spend my days doing, helping people transform the way they may have been managing their finances as a business owner or in their personal lives to a place where they have that unshakable confidence that Alissa was alluding to. Absolutely love what I do. It's my calling. And I'm very privileged. Every time I work with a client, it's a privilege and an honor, because when people open up about their money, I know who you are. If I look at your bank account, if I look at your credit card statement, I can tell you about yourself, right? So I'm very privileged that people have trusted me with that. And I'm honored to be a part of their transformations.
You know what I love best about what both of you said, and it's funny because Jane, as you're talking, Alissa and I are both going like this because we're just wholeheartedly, in agreement with everything that you're saying. And I know, for the people that I have the privilege of coaching, what I have really come to realize is that it's not always about the money. It's almost never about the money. I came to this place similarly to both you and Alissa, I believe. I was a high figure earner, and for some reason, we just never seemed to have any money, right? And so I really had to come to terms with, where's the money going? Why is the money going? And how can I change bad behaviors? And so, I talk a lot about money trauma, right? Because there's usually something emotional or something that's happened that has triggered that for you, or, for anyone who finds themselves in that situation. So when you are working with your clients, what are some of the first keys or habits or emotions that you pick up on as you're starting that journey?
Can I go, Alissa?
Absolutely.
I'll say that one of the first emotions that most of my clients come with is confusion, just like you alluded to, Patrice. Where's the money going? Most of our clients are very high income earners. And at the end of the month, at the end of the year, their accountant's like, where's all the money going? Or they're saying, where'd all my money go? I don't even know where my money's going. So they're confused. But they have shame because they don't know where their money's going. They're very successful at bringing in the income, right? And they're very smart people. They've risen up in their careers. They're engineers. They're presidents of associations. They're really smart people, but they feel, I don't want to say stupid, but they just don't quite get where all the money's
Lost.
going.
That's
They're
lost.
lost. Very good. Yes, they're lost. So a lot of shame, a lot of guilt because they haven't sat down to figure this out and they feel like they've wasted a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the main emotions that we start with.
Yeah.
So
You know,
go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead.
as Jane alluded to, most of our clients are professionals, entrepreneurs, and you know, what I hear so often from our clients is they tell me they know what they should be doing, right? They know they should be spending less, right? They know they should be saving more. They know they should be maybe cutting back, right? They have all these ideas of what they should be doing. Again, because they're intelligent, well-read, successful, you know, whatever the case may be. And because they know or think they know, right, what they should be doing, they constantly feel like a failure, right? And so there's, in addition to the two emotions that Jane talked about, you know, there's also guilt and this feeling of failure. And when you feel like you fail again and again and again, what happens is you don't want to try, and so they don't want to engage with their money, and so it's a, you know, it brings that cycle full circle, just like Jane started with, where they don't know where their money's going. And so I think working with a financial coach, I very often will you know, make the correlation between working with a financial coach or a money coach and working with a personal trainer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to get in better shape or lose weight, you know what you should be doing, right? You need to eat less, right? You need to stop opening the Pringles, right? And, you know, right? You need to drink more water. You need to work out. You know what you should be doing. But having a coach or a mentor, you know, whatever you want to put a title on that, to hold your hand, to work up a plan that respects how you want to live and how you want to achieve your goal, something that's personal to you, somebody to hold you accountable, somebody to check in on you, that shoulder to cry on, you know, all of those roles, that's going to help you kind of change your mindset and build those healthier habits.
I love that because it does come back down to habits. And we've had a lot of conversations, you know, before. And, you know, one of the things I think that we really keyed in on at various points in times was the fact that financial literacy is not necessarily something that you're taught, right? It's kind of a learned behavior. So it could be a good learned behavior or, you know, it could be a negative learned behavior. And then, of course, you know, let's talk a little bit about, I always talk about myself when I'm talking to my clients. I talk about money as a relationship, like a marriage, like a partnership. So, you know, when you're working with your clients in that realm, because we've hit on the guilt and we've hit on the shame, and I think the three of us can say we've walked that road, right? At one point in time or another, we've all walked what that feels like. And so, do you feel that when you're working with your clients, the fact that you've already taken that journey, um, you've got a level or what is the importance of having that level of trust and really letting them know that they're in a no judgment zone?
I always tell my clients my money story.
Mhm.
And I have to do that, I think, so that they know that I've been in their shoes. I have had the bad mistakes I made with money, not paying attention to those golden rules that Alissa was just talking about. I knew the golden rules, and I think most of us do, right? But not being able to follow them is a behavior problem and a mindset problem. And so when I share my money story, my reason I do so is to tell them, when you work with me, this is a starting point. This
Mhm.
is not going backwards. Yes, we're going to look at your money story because there are some messages that are still lingering there. But it's a starting point, a fresh start. And we'll honor how you grew up with money and those messages, and make sure that we're giving you those skills in your mindset skills to really make the change that you're looking for. Um, I always say, and I know Alissa says this too, it's like getting naked in front of me, right? Like, people would rather probably get naked in front of me sometimes than show me those statements, right? So it is a question of being vulnerable and being honest, because that way we can really make change. So I think that understanding that we've been in their shoes, we understand those feelings, helps them to be able to be more vulnerable and more forthcoming with what's going on.
Elisa, you want to add anything?
No, I think Jane said it so well. I don't know that I have too much to add. I also share my money story. My money story is, different than Jane's. Everybody's money story is. Um, and I think the process of learning why you do what you do
Mhm.
with your money really has to be the foundational piece that, like, part of the foundational work that you need to do if you want to do, adopt different behaviors with your money. So I think by sharing our story as Jane does and as I do, just like you said, Patrice, it demonstrates to our clients that we've been there, demonstrates that we understand what they're going through because we've gone through, similar, kinds of journeys. So I think that's really important.
So, what is one piece of advice, and I'm going to start with Elisa, that you would offer someone coming into this, just kind of realizing that they might need an accountability person?
I'd say one piece of advice is to be truthful.
Mhm.
Truthful with us, truthful with themselves. Um, because if you're not truthful, and sometimes that being truthful is painful, right? It is hard to admit that even though you and your coach agreed, right, that
Uh-huh.
you would spend this amount or you would do this with your money or you would complete this spreadsheet or, whatever it is that we're doing together, um, it's hard to sometimes admit that you aren't following through, or it's
Mhm.
hard to admit that so being truthful and being transparent and really just being honest about what is going on will allow you to make the most progress, see the most growth, and really make the most change.
All right, Jane, I'm throwing that ball to your court now.
In addition to what Alissa just shared, I would say understanding your why.
Mhm.
Why are you seeking help now? And, so many times we'll ask ourselves, why am I doing this? And you can get to one answer, but I do an exercise with my clients called the power of 7 whys.
Mm.
And it is 7 whys that you ask, why are you doing this? And why is that important? And tell me what that means. And you go 7 times and you can get to the core of your why. And that is what will keep you motivated. I did this myself about a year and a half ago. I knew I had to lose weight, and I did this on myself. I did the power of 7 whys. And that has kept me on track for a year and a half of maintaining my weight loss. So I think understanding what's beneath the surface of your why, and really getting to the core of what's going to motivate you long term will lead to success.
So, I mean, I know how I'm going to answer this, but this isn't about me today. So, how important is that mindset? Because I know, obviously, again, we all kind of do the same thing. So I know that sometimes I come in and my client's mindset is either one of real fear and anxiety, or it's just really bad. I deserve this. I deserve this. I deserve this. So in when you guys are working, because we all have very different personalities, which means we have different styles of how we coach. How do you approach starting to get your client to understand the importance of what that mindset shift looks and feels like, and then getting them to make that mindset shift? Ready, go.
I'll say that there's some education involved on how the brain works. Our brain is designed not to like change. It's efficient. It ruins efficiency when we start telling our brain something new. And our brain will resist it because it's trying to store energy for those automatic things that we do every day, saving the extra for those crisis moments. So it's going to block some progress if we're not aware of how the brain really works. And creating new habits and a new mindset takes time. It takes practice. It takes knowing that why. So I do educate my clients on creating new neural pathways, how that works, what they're likely to hear their brain saying, those automatic negative thoughts that come in that have been coming in all along, and how to deal with those as we're making progress with the numbers. But we're just designed to kind of live our lives out of habit. We talked about habit earlier. So much of what we do is automatic. So I do some education on how the brain works and what to expect your brain to say to you. It's not all going to be, go Jane, right? It's going to be, wait a minute, but I still want to go out to dinner. I'm going to go out to dinner, right? Like, right. So I think a lot of it has to do with helping our clients to understand what to expect as they're trying to implement change in what they've been doing all along or for years.
And I think the world in which we live feeds into that, Jane. We live in a world where we want everything now, right? If I order something from Amazon and it doesn't arrive within 3 hours, I'm like, ugh, right? I mean, we expect things now. And so I think so often when people get to a point in their lives when they're emotionally and psychologically and financially, right, they've hit a point where they're like, I know I need to make some changes. Sometimes what happens is, they reach out to us and they're like, I need an app, right? I need a spreadsheet. Just tell me what to do, right? And they leap to the activity, right? And as, if you're a good coach, right, you learn to marry the mindset work and help your client understand why that's so important with the activity so that they also feel like, so they're making financial progress as well as mindset and emotional progress.
I love how you were talking about having to rewire your brain because, we don't really pay attention to the fact that bad habits are hardwired. And so it really is this whole having to rethink how you do everything, and the difficulty sometimes that comes with that. Because you're right, we are an instant gratification society. If the page doesn't download in 2.5 seconds, we're done, right? So, how often have you had someone come in and they tell you, I need to do this work. I know that Money Mentor Group is going to be able to help me get this grip. And then they don't really put in the effort to make the change. How do you work with a client like that?
Well, I always say that we resist what we need the most. We teach what we need the most sometimes, and we resist what we need the most sometimes, right? So I have had clients that are all gung ho at the beginning and they're ready to go and they're enthusiastic and excited. And I start following up and they're dwindling off, right? So what I do is go back to the beginning with them, and we talk about their why again, right? I always go to what is the emotion you want to experience with your money as a goal. It's not just numbers, but what is that emotion that you want to experience with your money as a result of your money management? And I have them use that as a tool in making financial decisions. So that's one of the easiest tools to implement. And if I can start them back, if I have to go backwards a little bit and start with that, and I'll tell them, try that word on for a week. So my favorite is confident. I want to feel confident with my money. So if you're spending money on Amazon, right, ask yourself, is this going to lead me feeling confident with my money next week, next month? If the answer is no, it's time to pause and really think it through. If the answer is yes, this purchase on Amazon's a new calculator so I can use my new spreadsheet, whatever, then absolutely, it's probably a good way to make a financial decision. But sometimes I have to back off the numbers a little bit and go back to the emotional aspect of why they contacted me in the first place. It's that overwhelm, that shame, that guilt. And so that's what I do.
I don't know that I have anything to add because I don't know that I do anything different.
That's why you guys work so well together.
We do.
I love it. I love it. I have to say, and again, we've had I've had the privilege to be in some different spaces with you guys and having these conversations. Working through money issues as an individual is one thing. Working through money issues as a couple is a whole other ball of wax. And so when you guys are working with couples, what is some of the first pieces of education that you feel like they need to open themselves up to?
I'll jump in. When you're working with a couple, I think it's important to remind them of the couple goals that they had when they were first dating. So when you're first dating, right? Or not first dating, but you're into your relationship and it's getting serious. Most people have some kind of conversation around, do you want children, right? Do you want to live in this town or this town, right? They had some conversations about what their life might be like. And I like to take a couple back to those days when everything was rosy, right? They didn't have the stress of, kids and daycare and, all the things that just life, right, comes our way. And to take them back to what are your joint goals together, not money goals, but just goals as a couple, right? And as they are able to articulate those goals, and we have them do an exercise where they, they can do a vision board, they can write down their goals, whatever it is. Now, what we need to do is reverse engineer, right? What do they need to do to achieve those goals as a team? And if, somebody is sabotaging those goals, right, because of their financial behavior or their money mindset, that's where the work begins to have a conversation of, is that really a shared goal? If you're, doing something that really sabotages
Mhm.
you achieving that goal. So it's going back to some of those, conversations they had as they were approaching, getting engaged or marriage, and they were fantasizing about what life would be like together and talking about, is that still their shared goals? And then just reverse engineering what they need to do to get there.
Mhm.
I would say, in addition, we do a money personality assessment. And once we have the results, we share those results with the couple. So typically, I have a spender and a money hoarder,
I was
right?
getting ready to ask that question.
And I don't want to sound sexist. This just rhymes. So I usually have Spendy Wendy and Saver Sam. And it could be the opposite, right? But I can't think of names that go like that. So they both think each other's a jerk. Like, why does he want to save so much? Why does she keep spending so much? And a lot of the flashpoints are because of those money personalities. So when we educate people, whether they're in a couple or individual, about their money personality, we have journal prompts for them to work on. But I think recognizing what your spouse's or partner's money personality is very helpful, because then I'll just use an example, and I know my husband won't be listening, I guess, but he's an avoider, right? So I actually have to, knowing he's an avoider, have money dates with him to make sure he's up to speed on what's going on with our finances. Because if I don't, he will never ask. He just does not want to know. Just so we can do all the things we want to do, he don't want to know. So I think understanding each other's money personality, along with going back to those goals that you had when you were early in your relationship, and kind of along that line, having a dream team meeting, right? Let's go back to those dreams and be the dream team.
It's interesting because I know I always say personal finances are personal. And when you're married, it doesn't necessarily mean that all your money has to be in the same places together.
Oh.
And, my mother is of a different generation than I am. And so I remember she was just shocked when I said, well, we don't really have a lot of our stuff together, because I am the spender in our relationship and my husband is the saver. And so, I think part of navigating in a couple is a whole freaking lot of grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, if I can add one other thing, because we work with so many entrepreneurs and small business owners, that takes on a unique set of conversations and issues and struggles when it comes to couples, especially so many of our clients are what I would call early stage entrepreneurs, like within the first 5 years. And if you've ever started a business or have a business, those are 5 long, hard years sometimes, because it takes, blood, sweat, time, stress, all of that. And with so many couples, one of them has started a business and is going through that experience. The other one may have to be the breadwinner and, be paying the bills. And that can cause a huge amount of conflict and friction. And so, that takes a really kind of unique approach to financial coaching. Because again, I'm sure, we see this so often. One spouse wanted to start a business and the other spouse, just as Jane was saying, gung-ho in the beginning. Oh yeah, honey, that sounds like a great idea. But then 2.5 years into it, when there's no paycheck coming in and the person who's still going in their 9 to 5 every day is getting pretty frustrated, right? What happens then? So just like Jane said, having those conversations and some of those financial dates is super important.
I love that. I love the date thing. That's not anything I'd ever thought about. Whew, y'all might have given me a little arrow from my quiver. Thank you. I appreciate that. So Jane, if somebody would like to talk with you or Alissa for your services, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, they can email info@moneymentorgroup.com, Jane@moneymentorgroup.com, or Alissa@moneymentorgroup.com. Free ways, over the internet. They're welcome to call our company phone number, which is 301-418-1488.
I'm writing it down so I can make sure I get it at some point in time. So that is great. Ladies, thank you so much.
This has been such a pleasure.
It's great. Just kind of, I love this platform. It kind of gives us all that face-to-face time. Alissa, is there anything you want to add?
I just want to say that we met you on Clubhouse, as you said in the very beginning. And I remember the very first time we were in a room with you. Afterwards, we picked up the phone and we're like, that Patrice is awesome. So we feel honored to be on your podcast. So thank you for reaching out to us. And, I love the fact that we're all kind of in this space in some way, shape, or form, have somewhat of a shared mission of helping people with their money. And we're happy to be in this space with you.
Well, I appreciate you ladies both coming on. I'm glad that I got the opportunity to meet you first on Clubhouse and then of course here. So I appreciate you spending a little time with me today and offering your perspective. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrice. It's been a pleasure.